to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, welcome in. Andy Holloway, Mike Wright, the Fantasy Footballers. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good.
How you doing?
I had a lovely weekend.
Oh, me too, man. Just getting this show recorded.
The people on audio have no idea what's going on.
Tuesday, February 12th. What a great show. Got Deucer's Alley's cracking up back
there. Did you say
there.
February 12th?
4th,
Whatever.
February 4th. Sorry.
Whatever, man.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. I guess I'm a little distracted. Just like, wait, who's missing?
Jason's not here. Well, he is.
I see his laptop.
He's here.
I see his chair is kind of sideways.
Yeah.
Like a man who evacuated his seat.
Yeah, we were about to hit record.
Yeah. But he's not here.
No, he is in the Slack saying, "There's no way. This is a fake out. You're faking me out." So he'll be joining us.
I guess we've got a new award winner.
The trophy has changed hands.
The toilet trophy is now positioned center pocket. This is a really questionable decision to start. Al, are you feeling good about this call?
Oh, yeah.
To get the show recorded?
We can't be late. We have a timeline to stick to.
So we're just kicking things off here, Mike.
Yeah, what is today's show?
Well, today is the truth of the wide receiver position, part 2, not number 2.
Right.
Part 2.
Right, that's someone
Part
else.
2. Somebody else is in the middle. This is definitely a low for us. This is a low. This is a low for you and me personally. This is a low for the Deucers.
No, this is fantastic.
I mean, it's February.
We'll get into the content. Jason Moore will be here eventually.
Jason Moore, when he is done with doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He'll show up.
He'll be here soon. You're saying we kick this?
Yeah, let's
get the show going.
I mean, there was no football. There was a Pro Bowl, I guess.
Oh my gosh!
I saw some clips online of like the receivers putting on gigantic hands and trying to catch a ball.
There's no way that our audience wants to hear from you and I about the Pro Bowl instead of Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I know more about that than I know about the Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl is a travesty. I don't know why they're wearing giant hands. I don't know why they are. Oh, what do we got here? We've got an. You got to hit your button over there.
You dirty, dirty sons of guns.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Unbelievable. You guys. Oh my gosh. I can't believe you guys.
Can you believe we did this?
Dude, did you think it was still a goof even as you were walking in?
No,
look at the time, man. We're
going.
Oh
my gosh.
We're doing it live.
This is ridiculous. This is so mean. It's so brilliant. I'm so proud of you guys right now.
Oh,
gosh
welcome to
darn
the
it.
show, Jason. Oh, I'm so red.
Oh, you are. Oh my gosh. Well, so let me tell you something. I don't know what you guys talked about.
Oh, not much.
But I'm, right before the show.
Yeah.
Mike's not in here yet. Lollygagging lazy man.
I was getting ready for the show.
And I'm thinking, man, I knew there was some problems in the tummy. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and take care of business now. And it was a great decision because I desperately needed to.
Yeah, I get it.
And then I tell you guys, like, hey, there's some problems in here.
You said, quote.
Yeah, go on a show. Great.
I have made a very important and wise decision. I have a strong feeling I will be in here for more than a minute or two.
Yes, and so then a minute later I hear, oh, welcome in. And I went, no. I thought at first, now that's a good joke. I thought you were just sitting here and doing that so I could hear it.
No.
And then I kept hearing some laughs and some giggles, and I was like,
did they really do it?
They're doing it. They left me on the toilet. Oh, man. So, yes. So now I get the Deucer's Alley trophy.
Yeah, you got the trophy.
Unreal.
Welcome in.
Well, I'll tell you what. There is a chance I do not finish the show. So, joke's on you.
Man.
And I'm just, and at this point, we're not pausing.
He's more of a
I'll just take off. I won't say one word.
No, Duka Doncic. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
We do have a wide receiver episode, and I'm so glad you could be here.
Yeah, me too.
You still in shock?
Yeah, well, no, I'm good for the time being. Give me another 10 minutes.
This is an all-timer. Well, we were going to briefly comment on the Luka news.
Dirty dogs.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You would do it.
Oh, I would do it. I told you I'm proud of you. This is brilliant.
The Deucers are dying. They've been dying for 5 minutes now. Oh, man. Well, yeah, there was really big news not in the NFL, and we all are NBA fans.
Mm-hmm. Casual.
And I was 100% certain. Just quick reactions. I know this is not an NBA show, but I've already heard from enough people that want our quick reactions to that trade because it is the single most shocking, surprising trade in any sport that I can recall. I mean, I remember being a Suns fan in 1992, and the Suns got Charles Barkley for nothing.
Yeah. That was great.
I remember Ricky Williams getting traded for every draft pick that existed.
Oh, for the Saints?
For the Saints?
Yeah.
But this one, when it broke, I'm laying in bed. You know, for a lot of East Coasters, they were asleep. They woke up to it. And I was 100% certain that Shams got hacked.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Because it did not, and still to this moment, has not made 1 ounce more sense than the moment I read it.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes was just traded, you know, for what would the equivalent be? Like an above average
Matthew Stafford?
Oh, yeah, Stafford.
Yeah,
he's a Super Bowl
QB
winner.
Yeah, trade him for Stafford.
It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? I mean, Luka's, and I can't stand Luka. He's a big fat baby.
Yes.
Emphasis on the fat. But he's 25 years old. He's 20. He is a generation. He's a top 5 talent in the NBA who is with whatever franchise. He is the face of whatever franchise for a decade. And
crazy.
You don't. Those guys don't get traded. You can't acquire those guys. And here's the craziest part. If one of those caliber players were to ever get traded, the amount of haul that they would, I mean, you put that on the you go to your general manager group chat and you just say, "Hey guys, I'm thinking about
guess what?
I'm thinking about putting Luka out there. You're going to have 31 offers in minutes." And they just go and they trade him for
there's
jack
not even
squat.
that many teams.
Oh, how many are there in the NBA?
Isn't it 30?
My Jamar Chase looks pretty good now, doesn't it? Pretty good. Mike, you were as shocked as everybody else.
Yeah, I was with you. I thought it was fake. I think I even saw it and didn't post it into our basketball channel because I'm like, you
don't want to be.
You're not getting me on this one. And then you post it, and I'm like, I guess this is real. And then I didn't want to share it to my other friends' groups because I thought this is fake and people are going to laugh about how dumb this trade is. Not that Luka got traded, but just the compensation is – it doesn't make any sense.
I was shocked. It was crazy. Controversial opinion, but genuinely, I'm not even sure Dallas fans – like if you won a title with AD, but you lose Luka as the face of your franchise for the next 12 years, I'm not even sure you're happy. I guess you should be happy, but I don't know if you are happy.
It's very weird.
Well, there's rumors that this is to make them worse on purpose.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I've seen those. Those seem
too many layers into the conspiracy.
You're down the rabbit hole, but like at this point,
what other explanation makes sense? I mean, if you're not trying to make your team worse, then you did a bad job. If you're trying to make your team worse, nailed A+.
All right, here's some NFL news.
News and notes from around the league.
The Raiders, they hired Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator.
This is awesome. I'm really a little bit confused as to the pairing between Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. I mean, obviously two historically great collegiate head coaches,
right?
Getting together, but Pete Carroll's been a defense and run the ball type of head coach, and Chip Kelly is a fast pace, a no huddle, a high scoring, great plays. I mean, in his few years, and he didn't have great quarterback play when he was a head coach or when he was with San Francisco or Philly. And you're talking about top 5 in rushing offenses, in points. He had some really good things for fantasy football. So I was really hoping this cycle would have Chip Kelly back into an offensive coordinator position, and I like that it goes to the Raiders in the sense that this is a team that, I don't know, prior to this I'm not excited about. After this, maybe we've got some fantasy gold there.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see what they find in the draft. Quarterback, do they find a running back? You got Brock Bowers. More importantly, well, just for this show, the Buccaneers, Liam Cohen's gone, guys. I don't know if you know. Duval.
Which I analyzed it again, and it really takes it over the top. Is watch the eyebrows.
Is that what
when he does the because one is, I think it's like one is up, kind of like the Rock, and then it's do, and then Vol, the other one flies up.
So you've been spending some time with this.
I told you I can't get enough.
Yeah. Well, the Buccaneers need an offensive coordinator with Liam Cohen departing, so they have promoted Josh Grizzard, Jay Grizz.
You can't make this stuff up.
Sometimes things just come together for the sake of this show. Josh Grizzard,
the Grizzler,
as Mike calls him, the Grizzler. New offensive coordinator, the 8th one for Baker Mayfield.
Come on, Baker, you could do it again.
He can. He's used to it now. 2 years with the same coordinator might be very difficult for him at this point.
We have a new offensive coordinator for the Jets. It was the Lions passing game coordinator, Tanner Ingstrand. So the Lions have lost a lot of coaching this offseason.
I mean, this is what happens, and that's what makes the loss just even tougher, is you knew that things were going to get pillaged there.
And the Cowboys hired Clayton Adams, a former Cardinals offensive line coach, to be their new OC.
It was a surprising move, but the Cowboys, they do their own thing, man.
At least they're not the Mavs.
That is true. I mean, Jerry's feeling real good right now in Texas. He's like, yeah.
Or bad. Maybe he's
yeah.
out of the spotlight.
Yeah, you think he wants
Remember when he took over the world with that "we're not going to stop the sun from being in your eyes" thing?
Yeah.
The moon. No, now it's all Luka. We will have a full in-depth coaching changes episode. It's coming up here pretty soon. We're waiting.
Going to be there for all of that?
Yeah, TBD. It's like when was the last time I ate Chipotle? Would be the question that I would ask you.
Which was today. Oh man.
It
tastes good.
We'll have that episode coming out where we dive deep. We're waiting for a couple more hires to happen. So
you're waiting for Kellen Moore to officially get hired by the Saints.
See, that's the rumor mill. Is like essentially it's his job. Nothing's official.
Do you believe Dallas could be the Schottenheimer, Clayton Adams? Do you think this is placeholder? Do you think this is the bridge? Because they're starting to be, is this the waiting for Dion? Because it would look bad on Dion if he left right after his son leaves Colorado. Or is this waiting for Belichick? Because Belichick has to have a year in North Carolina. Or is this waiting for?
Well, they could have bought. I thought that Belichick had like a $10 million.
Oh yeah, he had a buyout, but maybe
also
just from perception.
Belichick didn't have a job. Like, he could have been hired. So when you're talking about Jerry Jones, I don't think it's wrong to think
what's the master plan?
Yeah, what circus show does he have lined up? But like looking out there, I don't know.
Does he have time for a bridge years?
No, I don't think so.
Don't know.
I think he's hiring Schottenheimer to be the head coach going forward.
Yeah, Jerry likes to think he's really good at the general managing.
Adam Thielen says, quote,
yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
I think I still have some football.
He says, I think I still have some football in me.
Mm-hmm.
So Final year. He's going into his final year of he's 34 now.
Yeah.
He actually is getting older. Matthew Stafford plans to play in 2025, but will likely need a new contract, about to turn 37. There you go. All right, the full crew back together. It's time to hit the truth.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Well, it's the wide receiver truth episode part 2. It's we've been walking through every position group. Just went through the top. How many did we get through in the first wide receiver? 10?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I think we got through 10.
Looks like 10.
So we'll continue. Some more interesting storylines here. Believe it or not, 2024 saw the most total receiving touchdowns from the wide receiver position in NFL history.
I don't believe it.
So you're going to have to. It's just it's facts.
Okay.
Facts, man. 11 different wide receivers had 9 or more receiving touchdowns. We only had 6 of those last year. But couple of those guys, Rashad Bateman, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine.
Yeah, I mean, touchdown superstar.
That was a fun run in the middle of the
One every
season.
2 catches is a huge touchdown.
The defenses in the NFL employed zone 67% of the time. That's down from 71% last year. Pretty normal.
Pretty normal, but it had been going up. We talked about this going into this season. It went from 64% to 67, 68, 71, and now it reverted a little bit more. So, I mean, it's always a pendulum in the NFL. As teams start adjusting to one thing, you go back and forth.
And so today we'll get into some more names, starting with Mike Evans at number 11. A reminder, we're looking at a consistency score determined by the amount of great games a wide receiver has, which is 20 or more fantasy points. 12.5 is our marker for good games, and bust games are fewer than 7.5 points. And we do not include Week 18 when you're not playing these guys. We want to know the truth, the reality, when they were on your roster, when the games mattered. What did they do? Tried and true. Hard to escape. Mike Evans at 11. Consistency rank of 12. I mean,
that's wild. Like, when you look at his game log, a consistency rank of 12, yeah, I don't know. It just feels strong with the amount of red in there. I mean, you have 23% of his games, it was a bust, but he had so many really high-level finishes.
Yeah, when you look at the game log,
38% great. Like that for Mike Evans.
that's very high.
Yeah.
The touchdowns, right? I mean, the 11 more touchdowns, 1,000 yards. Missed 3 weeks before his bye. So the middle of the season, you didn't have him. That hurt. 46% good, 23% bust. But this is the highest great percentage for Evans. Highest percentage of games 20-plus since we've been doing this series.
Really?
Yeah.
That is shocking because he's a deep downfield guy who's had monstrous performances over and over. So it's interesting that this year he had so many massive performances. Obviously, towards the end of the year, I think they were trying to, once he got back from the injury, they're trying to force him the ball a little bit more, especially the final 2 weeks of the season. I mean, obviously, the last play of the season where
it was so good.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do. I'm so happy they did it. Get the man his record. Let him keep going on these 1,000-yard seasons. He got to 1,004.
Do we think that obviously Chris Godwin went down Week 7? He had some hit-and-miss games before that. His consistency in the first half was worse than the second half when Godwin was going off. It seemed like it was a Godwin or Evans game kind of for the first 7 weeks. But, new offensive coordinator for him too, but he's gone through a million of them. How are you going to view Mike Evans heading into 2025? He's now 31. He'll be 32.
Being 32 with a new coordinator, they'll probably bring another wide receiver in, whether that's bringing Chris Godwin back or replacing him in the draft or free agency. I don't think Mike Evans will – he's at the stage of his career where there's usually only two truths. Either he's lost it, right? They're like, you're going to hold the bag and, okay, this was the end, and that happens to all the greats. Andre Johnson was great until 1 year. He just showed up and
then he wasn't.
Toast.
Julio Jones, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Or he's going to be undervalued in drafts. He's going to be a really good, because
those are the only two.
Those are the only two. You're just not going to have him be drafted high enough to what he deserves. So I think he'll be a good value. I do not believe at 32. Round? Yeah, I would say he'll be in the 4th round. I could see him maybe even fall to the 5th.
A little bit lower than that. What you know for sure is
he's just begging to be a my guy again, isn't he?
They will do their best to get him 1,000 yards. Like that will be in play because then Kyle he's tied right now with Jerry Rice. Am I remembering that right?
That's correct.
So if he gets it this year, then that's Mike Evans' record of most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, right?
Yeah, and it's all of them because he started out as a rookie doing it.
That's wild. First ballot.
He's working his way there. He's not there yet.
We'll talk about Jerry Jeudy in just a sec. We'll take a quick break, and we've got a bunch of other names to talk about. This is a name that this one's just a weird one to talk about.
I don't know what to do with this one. Yeah,
Jerry Jeudy comes in at 12 with a consistency rank of 26. Okay, so you're like, okay, that's a terribly misaligned
for the wide receiver 12
to consistency. Was barely drafted, right? Wide receiver 58 off the board, 13th round. First half of the season, it was same old for Jerry Jeudy. He was a wide receiver 71.
If you were playing Jerry Jeudy over the first half of the year, it was detrimental to your fantasy football lineup.
And yet, 1,229 receiving yards, 90 catches, 145 targets, four touchdowns. Because in the second half of the season, he went on an absolute tear. Once Amari Cooper was shipped off, once we had Deshaun Watson no longer a quarterback, he was number 10 in consistency and battled his way with some monster performances all the way to wide receiver 12. 13% great. Okay. 31% good. Okay. 31% bust. Like Jerry Jeudy was like how many weeks into his breakout did it take before you would play him?
2 because it coincided with the quarterback change. And I think that was the biggest. As soon as Jameis took over, we wanted Cedric Tillman. We wanted Elijah Moore. We wanted Jerry Jeudy.
It was Cedric Tillman at the beginning.
Yeah, so you would throw these players in. It was nice that
Tillman got hurt.
Yes.
You weren't sure, how much was the quarterback change versus how much was Amari Cooper being gone because obviously those didn't happen at the exact same moment. I will say this. If you were to take the first 6 weeks away from Jerry Jeudy, that's when Amari Cooper was on the roster, and just look at the season as a total from week 7 on, and it didn't start great. Like week 7 was one of his worst games of the season, but even including
was that the Watson injury game?
I'm not sure the specifics of
week 7 was the Watson injury. 39% of snaps for Watson that week.
So even including that week, the whole season for Jerry Jeudy minus Amari Cooper, he was the wide receiver 13 in consistency. In our consistency metric.
He's so bizarre, though, of like we've been Jerry Jeudy has I would say he's underperformed pretty drastically your hopes and your dreams for when he was drafted. Like he was in the Jefferson Jefferson draft class where
CeeDee Lamb,
where Jeudy was the second wide receiver. I think you had Ruggs first, but it had been 4 years in Denver where you had like an end of season, you had one 972 yards, 6 touchdowns in year 3 with the Denver Broncos. But it's been an underperformance as a whole. And then you get the first half of this. But then now is this the genie's out and the team's like, holy crap, we didn't even realize that this was part of the range of outcomes for Jerry Jeudy, which if you remember, they got him and they extended him.
The Browns did believe that this was who Jerry Jeudy was, and if you want to give them credit for that, that would be one of the few things you can give them credit for. By the way, news that Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland just came through. They did know that. They did believe this about Jerry Jeudy. Now, we're going on 2 consecutive years where your expectations for the best wide receiver in Cleveland are letting you down for the first half of a year, and then in the second half of the year when no Deshaun Watson, they go crazy. I mean, Amari Cooper was a league winner last year, 2 years ago. Now Jerry Jeudy did it. So, he needed the opportunity. Now listen to this. 93% of his targets, they were tied or trailing.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to chuck it.
That is part of Myles.
They are picking second.
Yeah. The Myles Garrett news is really good news for David Njoku, for Jerry Jeudy, for the fantasy implications of the Cleveland Browns. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. That's going to be the major deciding factor for how Jerry Jeudy is viewed next year. But I do think he comes into this. I mean, they re-signed him, so he's under contract through till 2027 with the Browns. He's their clear man now, their primary wide receiver, and he looked good. Like we've waited way too long, and so it feels like, I don't know, we know who Jerry Jeudy is. We know he's an average guy, or as Steve Smith would say, he's just a guy.
Yeah, the Steve Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Put him in a body bag.
For sure. And so, it's a little skeptical. I'm a little hesitant to just completely buy in because we've had a lot of years of him being just average. But what he did this year was above average. And I'm not just talking in the counting stats. He was open. His route running, his yards after catch, they looked like kind of what you were drafting this guy for. So if they figure out anything with the quarterback, and they got the number 2 pick, I mean, they could very easily end up with the first quarterback in the draft.
It's rare you want to just project a half of a season, but because his season was Amari Cooper, it was tied into the change at quarterback and at wide receiver. His second half, 8 games, that was a 1,700-yard pace with 120 catches on 178 targets.
Put a 200-yard game in there. That'll help.
Yeah. So it was a big run for Jerry Jeudy. He will be a risk. No question. If it's a rookie quarterback, it's a risk. Is this the Jameis Winston?
Is it Devonta Parker?
Right.
Like the round 1 wide receiver who gives you very little, and then year 5, you're like, holy crap, I knew it. I knew I should believe in Jerry Jeudy the whole time. And then you go, oh, no. Well, that was just a year.
What do you do when you look at George Pickens or you look at Jerry Jeudy next year? I think those are very fair names to actually be in the same conversation. I think most people would react and say Pickens. I don't know if that's the answer.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comp. He'll probably go near him in the draft. You do have to keep in mind Cedric Tillman looked like the dude.
Yeah, he looked like he could
and then
play.
He got the concussion that I still question whether. I mean, we don't have any inside knowledge. It was obviously, it's never good when a player takes a month off from a concussion.
More than a month.
He missed
more than that.
6 games.
And so you worry a little bit. However, the context of the situation was they were out of it. They were totally out of the running. They're playing more for a draft pick than anything else. So rushing him back didn't make much sense.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have more conversations about Jeudy throughout the offseason, depending on what they find at quarterback. At 13, Ladd McConkey at 13. Consistency was 24th. First half, 39th in consistency. The first half, it was first half was like if Ladd caught a touchdown pass, you were happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like he's a rookie.
But in the second half, his consistency jumped up to 17 overall, and he had games that didn't require a touchdown to be relevant. You end up with a 112 target, 82 for 1,107 season. Hard to really have expected anything more than that from Ladd McConkey. Delivered pretty much through injury over the back half of the year, battling injury. That will be part of his story. Can he stay healthy? But, from week 8 on, he was the wide receiver 8 in fantasy.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
The first 7 weeks, he was on a yardage pace of 750 yards over the course of a season. From that week 8 point on, he was on a yardage pace of over 1,500 yards, literally double the yardage. They figured something out, and I mean, this just makes sense. First of all, we talked about this on the truth of Justin Herbert. The team started completely running the ball, not letting Justin Herbert throw, and then as the season went along, they realized what they had in Herbert, and this is his team. They let him throw a little bit more, and Ladd's a really good football player. This is a player that we all liked a lot coming into the season. We just weren't sure if the opportunities were going to be there in the passing game for the offense. it seems like they will be.
Well, you had a playoff game where he had 14 targets and went 9 for 197 and a touchdown.
He went nuclear, and when you compare him to other rookies, what they have already given us in the NFL, guys who were drafted in rounds 1 through 3, Ladd is in the 80th percentile for targets per route run. We love that. Yards per route run, 4th best over the last decade. Like, he's right there with Beckham, A.J. Brown, and Justin Jefferson in terms of a per route basis. So, like, this is a player who is
Could the pendulum swing too far for Ladd?
Wow,
well,
yeah.
let me give it to you.
Yeah, his best ball ADP.
Yeah, so best ball's for the absolute degenerates and maniacs out there. Best ball's open if you want to just have a good time. But right now we're seeing an early best ball ADP of wide receiver 10.
That feels really
that's spicy.
That feels risky considering that this team is clearly an asset short in the receiving game.
It seems like they're going to draft somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would imagine whether maybe it's a tight end, maybe it's a premium pass catching tight end, maybe it's
Tee Higgins.
Yeah, maybe Tee Higgins comes, but it definitely seems like we don't know yet. This is TBD on what the pecking order is next year. Ladd McConkey, if they bring in someone really good, that person will, I think, leapfrog McConkey from a volume perspective, even if it's not from a talent perspective, just from the size, stature, and style of play that McConkey has.
That is ahead of A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Tee Higgins.
It's hard, man.
I probably would not have him slotted at 10, but I would have no problem putting him ahead of Garrett Wilson and JSN. McLaurin and Brown I'd probably put ahead of him.
Yeah, Brown for sure.
And then Higgins, depending on where he is. I mean, Higgins and McConkey should be a fair conversation, even if he stayed in Cincinnati.
Yeah, this one is brutal because I want to be all chips in on Ladd, but that wide receiver 10 is oh man,
it's as spicy as it gets.
Yeah, like that is projecting a very big jump.
All right, here's a combo platter. Couple of Eagles wide receivers, one at 14, one at 24. We'll talk about them at the same time. A.J. Brown finished at 14. That's not great. Consistency rank, though, was 9 overall. First half was number 2. Second half, 21. So we'll talk about the drop-off. Devonta Smith, consistency rank was 14, so better than his fantasy finish. Although in the second half, he dropped to number 20. So to have 2 Eagles wide receivers on the edges of the top 20 in consistency, that is more the story, I think, is where are we headed as a team. And they could very well have put into practice both a strategy that disappoints us as fantasy players and wins them a title in a matter of days.
Yeah, I mean, the second half of the year, first of all, the Philly defense got better and better as the season went along.
Yep.
You know, they had a couple of rookie corners in there that just, you know, like a lot of these rookie wide receivers, go figure, they get better as the season goes along, and that happened. And as that happened and they had more leads, Saquon took over. This was, you know, it's funny to think, like, this is Saquon's team. Like, in 1 year, all of a sudden, this is Saquon Barkley's team when you've got Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith for a running back to come in and just be like, you know, it's not Derrick Henry's team. You know what I mean? It's Lamar Jackson's team. But this is Saquon Barkley's team. And so that's where I think in the second half of the year and going into next season, like you said, Andy, it works. Not for fantasy, but it works in winning ball games, which is what they care about. The passing game, the total passing stats are going to be down if they're winning ball games, if they've got good defense, and if Saquon is healthy.
Yeah, and people will want to talk about, you know, what is Jalen Hurts capable of. I think if they need him to throw the football, these guys are going to have big fantasy production. If they don't need him to throw the football, he's been reined in a little bit.
Did we talk about they'll probably have a new OC? Well, not probably. Most likely they will with Kellen Moore.
Yeah, how does that make you feel?
Being lined up for the Saints job.
Gut reaction to another turnover at offensive coordinator. For
yeah,
them.
It's not good. I mean, you saw it with the Eagles be a very big negative a couple years ago. And so it could very well be a negative again.
Yeah, and you had I'm looking at the game log here. you had a few times where both guys had disastrous weeks, right? Like week 11, wide receiver 36 and 55. Week 14, wide receiver 46, 28. So they can win games without these guys right at this moment. But, you know, A.J. Brown finishing as the wide receiver 14, being drafted as the wide receiver 6 last year. Where do you think he will go?
A.J. Brown?
Like, are people going to try not to draft A.J. Brown, or are they going to try to draft A.J. Brown?
When push comes to shove and you see the names next to each other, he'll be very high. He'll be the back
like
of the
Drake
first round.
London or A.J. Brown?
I will probably be on the Drake
I'll go
London
Drake.
side. I think ADP will still have A.J. Brown
Malik
higher.
Neighbors or A.J. Brown?
I'll be on the Neighbors side.
Yeah. Brown will be a fringe wide receiver 1 in terms of ADP.
And I know he finished
underdog. He's sitting behind all those guys.
Yeah, right now he finishes the wide receiver 14, but he missed 3 weeks. So he was a wide receiver 1 on the season.
15 was Devonta Adams, who we talked about on the last episode with Garrett Wilson. So 16 is Jordan Addison. Now this one's, 16 outside the top 12. I get it. Still feels higher than what he seemed to have represented for your team. Is
the big games in the back. I mean, you have an overall number
big
1.
games in the back.
Yeah, you got big back Jordan Addison. He had a number 1 overall finish. 2 weeks later, he was number 3 with actually more points than he scored in his number 1 output. So when you like those types of performances, that's multiple games in one. So it juices you up to wide receiver 16.
Yeah, he was 22 in consistency. First half 46 seemed irrelevant. In fact, if you traded for, had Addison in a dynasty, probably didn't feel great the first half of the year.
Well, and that's not even counting the games he missed in the first half of the year. Our consistency metric only scores you for the games that you started. And so it was worse than that, and he was 46. But the second half of the year really clicked in this offense. It worked with, being on the other side of Justin Jefferson, and he looked really special. I mean, over and over, there were plays where I did feel like I was watching the game. I remember towards the end of the year in certain situations where I was rooting for Justin Jefferson, and the ball would fly down the field, and you're just thinking, oh, is that going to Jefferson? And it would look just like Jefferson coming open, like wide open, and then it's just a smaller version, and it's Jordan
Right.
Addison.
Yeah, the second half he was the wide receiver 15 in consistency. So pretty impressive. Big play threat. Can have those explosive games like Mike said.
I mean, 19 touchdowns through 2 seasons.
That was the number I
That's
think we all
wild.
expected to come way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ends up with 9 on 99 targets, and that was with missing, 2 weeks to start the year?
Yeah, losing Kirk Cousins and being 175 pounds, you do not expect high touchdown volume.
But the big plays, man. The big plays. What was
So
his
what-
total? He was
so-
63 receptions, so that's low. In fact, only 3 players over the last decade had multiple seasons of 9+ receiving touchdowns that are on 70 or fewer, and he's one of them. Marvin Jones did it. Remember the great Marvin Jones
Oh, yeah.
touchdown
Oh,
years, and
yeah.
then Mike Evans does it because he's Mike Evans.
Right. It feels like I think the player is very, very good, but for where he finished and where he might be drafted compared to how it comes, I'm going to be scared. So the truth to me of Jordan Addison is I'm worried because you still don't know the quarterback either.
Yeah, I think that's being reflected in some of the early best ball. Wide receiver 28 off the board, despite finishing at 16.
That feels right. I would love to take him
28
at 28 because there's
I'm fine with 28.
this is a very inconsistent player, but when you get to this range of wide receivers, all of them are, we say this every year, but they're all inconsistent. No one here is just like, oh, really high floor, never has bad games. I want the guys in this range that, okay, you're going to have bad games because all of them are going to have bad games. Which one could go out there and be the wide receiver 1 on a week, the wide receiver 3 on a week? And he obviously did that.
Yeah, I was just glancing at some of the T.Y. Hilton seasons.
Hilton had some good years.
That sounds
Because
pretty.
that seemed
well,
Hilton
never-
was never a touchdown
wasn't
guy.
a
Hilton
touchdown
never
guy,
got the 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But total receptions and some of the big yardage numbers were there. At 17 was Tee Higgins. What a weird year.
He was awesome.
Consistency, guys, 5. My mind's being blown a little bit
Yeah,
right now.
you don't realize
First
how
half,
good he was.
First half was 14. Second half, 2.
Yeah.
the first month of the season was disaster for the Bengals. The Bengals got off to a bad start. Joe Burrow started a little slow. Tee Higgins was injured the first 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks coming back was not good. Didn't get 10 fantasy points for the first month of the season. So I think we were – like your mind being blown right now, if you didn't have Tee Higgins and you didn't ride that experience later, you started off really pessimistic about Tee Higgins. And so if you didn't have him, that's why this episode exists, to make sure you know, like, he was really good. In the games he actually played in, he busted only 18% of the time. That is a very good number. He was 64% of the time good, 27% of the time great. Joe Burrow was magma, and obviously Jamar Chase, number 1 wide receiver, gets all the love, but I don't think a lot of people realize how good Tee Higgins was.
How do you reconcile what we've known for a while? Tee Higgins can come up with monster games, has a great quarterback, can be a top performer, with what you also had to deal with. I mean, I was on this show, hosting this show, watching a man shrivel up and die 5 different times this year, not to mention other games where he actually did play, but you weren't sure. The injuries have been a problem. He played 1 full season in his career. It was his rookie season. He hasn't played a full one since. He missed 5 games this year with hamstring, quad injuries. That has always been part of the story is you want him out there, not just for Tee Higgins' sake, but for Jamar Chase's sake. But through 5 seasons, he hasn't been able to give you a fantasy finish inside the top 15 because he doesn't play enough.
Yeah, it's definitely injury. I mean, injury is his problem. When he's out there playing and finishing games, because he has been known to exit games early, if he's playing, he's good. And so we just can't actually predict injury. And there are lots of players who have the injury-prone label who bucket, and then the next thing you know, they're Ironmen for a couple seasons. So I'm not going to hold the injuries against
it.
Yes.
Bucket.
Yeah, no.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out the cool reference.
No.
Like he buckets.
Yeah, no, it was like the horse.
Yeah, no.
You
bucket.
bucking Bronco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bucket off.
What's your thoughts on all of the experience, Mike? Like, is this one you're going to be going back to the well on?
I will.
You will?
I will.
You?
Yeah.
You've been hurt so much.
But here's the thing is, like, yes, there are many pains, but there are many pains from many fantasy football wide receivers out there who can't give you what Tee Higgins can give you.
Mike is in an unhealthy relationship with Tee Higgins.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because Tee Higgins can hurt Mike 100 times, but if he helps Mike once, it's like all is forgiven.
I wouldn't go there, but I would say that Tee Higgins, yeah, he hasn't been a top 15 guy, but in 3 of 5 seasons he's been wide receiver 22, 17, 19. I mean,
that is the Terry McLaurin experience.
Yeah,
before his big year.
So
can he go be the number 1 if he doesn't stay in Cincinnati? Like if he goes to the Chargers,
heck yeah,
is that better than him staying in Cincinnati?
I think it is. If you're a place that I would project as good as the Chargers, it would probably be neutral, because I think he can go be a number 1. But this isn't like, I don't think he can be Jamar Chase. He can't be Jefferson, but he could be like Mike Evans numbers. Tee Higgins can do that.
He was so tough this year because you drafted him, Mike.
Yeah.
Then he got hurt and didn't play the first 2 weeks. Then he played 2 weeks and did nothing.
Well, hold on. He got it was announced he was hurt like an hour after I drafted him.
So your first 4 weeks were you lost him completely.
Oh, yeah.
Then you get him back for 3 weeks. 2 of them were great. And then he got hurt and he missed 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
That's the one that really hurt.
Yeah, that's the one that made you sell and feel like you were
But
done.
That's 8 of 10 weeks to start the year that you were unhappy.
Yeah, he's
a weird player, man. This is why I'm always on this side of, I doubt, like, we create the perfect dynamic tension on Higgins on this show, because I am always focused on the negative of Tee Higgins, and you are always focused on the positive, and the truth is in the middle.
Well, yeah, I mean, the truth is when he plays, he's good, and he doesn't play too often, and that stinks. But I'm not going to try to draft a guy based on knowing future injuries. Instead, I'm going to draft a guy. He averaged 15.5 fantasy points per game this season in half PPR. And if you don't know where that ranks, Justin Jefferson, who was number 2 on the season, was 15.6 fantasy points. It's basically the same.
That's it's pretty powerful. Let's take a break. We'll talk about a player that Kyle won't want to talk about. All right, drafted by Kyle as the wide receiver 48. Somewhere in the 10th, 11th round, maybe not drafted at all. 23-year-old Jameson Williams comes in at 18. But don't worry, his consistency rank was even better at 15. Was this a tough year for you, Kyle? Having to come to terms with Jameson and everything that you thought about him being wrong?
He's fine.
So, look, Jameson Williams was, I'll say this, he was valuable for fantasy football on a regular basis. And if you traded him, like I did in one league, off of the first couple of weeks of success, I guess it was okay. I mean, missed a couple weeks, had some big weeks towards the end of the season. I know
he was a playoff guy.
He was a playoff winner, 29% great, 43% good. Those numbers are pretty good. 29% bust, you don't like that. But for a guy that was completely doubted, his ability in the NFL to break out, to be a meaningful player, to me, he passes the eye test and always has.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Jalen Waddle across the middle of the field, just when the ball's in his hands.
Yeah,
when they
fast.
give him an end around,
yes.
When they want to take a deep shot and you need separation, Jameson Williams brings a lot of explosiveness to the offense.
Well, and this is an offense you want pieces of. You know, this was the number one offense in the NFL. They were number 3 the last time. Obviously, they're going to have an offensive coordinator shift, and that could hurt them. But that could also help Jameson Williams be utilized more as, a primary wide receiver too. This is a guy who still only caught 58 passes this year. So even though his consistency was okay because he had the big plays, over 1,000 yards, he wasn't, the possession, regular, consistent, high volume type of player that you wish he could be, like a Jalen Waddle a couple of years ago, because that Amon-Ra soaks all that up. So it's possible that changes here in his favor, but I do think going into next year, everyone's going to assume the Lions are a very good offense. They've still got a great offensive line and a lot of continuity between the players, even though you've got a coaching change. So Jameson Williams stepped up, showed that he can be a legitimately important fantasy asset and a legitimately impactful Lion for their team. So you have to imagine it sticks and it stays if it doesn't even just get better.
I'm not going to say he will do this, because I think he has to prove the work ethic to become this kind of player. But I do think it's in front of him in Detroit. But I remember being here on the show and talking about another player that we thought was really limited back in 2016 that had 61 receptions that year, that looked really explosive but didn't get the kind of work, wasn't well-rounded. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do not.
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was not considered by anybody coming out of 2016 to be the next great thing at the position. Jameson Williams was drafted with the capital to do that. That's all I'm saying. Now, whether he's got the work ethic to go put that in and become that kind of player, I don't know. But you had a lot of people that thought Tyreek Hill was a one-trick pony, and he became a well-rounded receiver. And I don't know if that's what Jameson Williams' future will be, but I do believe that if the Lions needed to throw the ball more, like he was the opposite of Jerry Jeudy. He had the lowest percentage of his yards and fantasy points when trailing, because the Lions were winning almost every game. And yet he put up a number like this. So when you talk about, is the pathway forward there for him? Will the Lions be the number one offense, always leading? Will the running game be as effective? Those are things that could change the story for Jameson Williams in some capacity.
I thought you were going to go a different direction with your saying of like how you were on this podcast last year giving the warnings of Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Of who was on a great team, a high-powered offense, has a good defense, has this unbelievable level of efficiency where Ayuk, the magical year 2 years ago, he was at 17.9 yards per reception on 75 catches, 75 touchdowns. Jameson Williams.
75 touchdowns.
Or sorry, 7. Jameson Williams, 58 catches, 17.3, 7
very
touchdowns.
Similar.
Like it's
very similar.
He was incredibly efficient.
Big play dependent.
Like volume can go up for for Jameson Williams. 91 targets. That's a number that you could see going up, but I think he is difficult because it was these huge plays, and those can bounce back and forth. I'm not saying he can't kind of replicate this, but it is very difficult.
It's the third highest great game percentage behind Evans and Chase. And he missed 2 games. So you got to factor that into where his fantasy finish was. I think he's going to be super interesting. Coming into his prime, 24 years old.
I'm going to be in on Jameson Williams, no matter what Kyle says.
Yeah, I know. Kyle really hates him.
Kyle just despises Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle has won that argument 2 of 3 years. So it's still the point is still on his side.
I'm not giving him any credit, no.
Oh, okay.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
I see.
I do. Because, I mean, you're going to give Kyle credit for, his gambling problems.
You care about back then or now? You know what I mean?
Right.
Would you rather have Jameson Williams or Addison? I'd rather have Jameson Williams.
Same.
Courtland Sutton comes in at 19. Good for you, man. Wide receiver 49 off the board, 16 in consistency. Was the same old guy in the first half again.
Rookie quarterback.
32nd in – but exactly. Like the same problems for Sutton. Quarterback consistency. Yeah. You're a good player, but, the ball finds you sometimes. Second half, he was the 7th most consistent player. This should tell you everything you need to know about Courtland Sutton. He's on one of my teams.
What is that?
What is that?
What that means is that, like, I would never be caught dead with Courtland Sutton on any of my teams. Now he's on. I intentionally put him on my team.
I got it. I got you.
He's on the championship team with Al Borland, who just held up his Courtland Sutton trophy.
That's right.
I mean, that's where I became a believer this year in him as at least the alpha for Bo Nix. And if the wide receiver core doesn't change a lot, he'll still be a value next year. There's no way he's going to go anywhere near wide receiver 15, 16 where he is in consistency.
It certainly seems like he will be their wide receiver 1 next year. They've got a lot of other holes to replace. They've got to fix the running game.
Sorry.
I don't.
You just don't. You fill the hole. You fill the hole. I just never heard him replacing the holes. But go on.
That's fair.
That's interesting.
The ultimate draft kit
with another hole.
That's what it sounds like. You put
an even bigger one.
You replace the hole with another hole. I don't know.
We did what you asked, sir. We replaced the hole.
Yeah, man.
You can't tell, but it's a new hole.
You said replace the hole.
So the ultimate draft kit, the dynasty portion of that. It drops on Sunday.
We probably should have mentioned that while you were gone earlier.
Yeah, we're working on all of that content right now, and our Dynasty startup rankings will be live. So if you're an Ultimate Foot Clan member, you already have access to that on Sunday. Our Dynasty startup rankings, rookie rankings, those type of stuff will launch. But I bring all that up to say Courtland Sutton was the hardest player for me to figure out where to put in a dynasty league because he's 29 years old. I do expect next year he is their wide receiver 1. How much improvement or regression from Bo Nix on a touchdown? He had 8 touchdowns this year, which is a pretty good number, especially for a rookie. And so it's like, okay, I think he's got one more good year, but eventually they're going to have to step it up, add to this wide receiver core.
I think I agree with you that I don't think they're going to add to that core this offseason.
I don't either.
I think where they need help is going to be, protect Bo Nix and get a running back.
Yeah, they need a running back bad. Sean Payton really wants to have a running game, and it's impossible. You just can't.
Sutton was very consistent, 50% good games, only 6% great. So it turned into a very consistent experience with Courtland Sutton, double digits almost every week down the stretch, 7th in consistency. It's great. It's awesome to see.
And he was interesting he was far more productive against man coverage instead of zone. So maybe the downtick there that we mentioned at the top of the show of defenses running zone going down a little bit because like man yards per route run, it's over 3. Like that's incredible. And then zone, it was down under 2 yards per route run. So it may be more predictable with moving forward with him with that information if we can get a hold of which defenses are preferring to go with man coverage. And I mean, it makes sense for the prototype of wide receiver that he is. Like, he's the traditional X wide receiver where it's like the bigger guy, let's let him win a 50-50 ball.
There's going to be some contract problems here too. He's going into the last year of his deal. He wanted to get an extension this last year, couldn't get it done. So I don't know if you're going to have hold-in, trade requests, whatever. I don't know that the Broncos are wanting to extend the 29-year-old wide receiver for a long time.
Breaking news.
Courtland Sutton just signed a contract extension, Jason.
Yeah, that sounds – I feel like we've done that before. We
Oh,
did that.
my gosh. That's not true,
For
though.
reference, no, that is not true.
If that was true –
That's impossible.
That would be impossible.
Because the last time he signed one, you also said he wouldn't sign one.
Yeah,
you were in the middle of saying he would not sign one.
And he had just signed. That was I mean, that bodes well for his bank account.
Good callback, Mike.
3 more names I want to talk about. Number 20 was Tyreek Hill. Number 23 is Puka Nacua. And number 26 is Nico Collins. Let me skip Tyreek for a second and circle back. Puka came in at 23 because he missed a bunch of time, but his consistency rank was 3. So
Puka
the story
and Nico
of,
are easy.
Yeah, and Puka came in at 26, missed a bunch of time, consistency rank of 6. Let me just ask you, which of those two guys would you rather have?
Puka.
I'll take
In a redraft.
What was that?
It was me immediately wanting to
creaky
say.
door.
I wanted to say Puka right off the bat, but I'm also remembering, like, I had a hard time with these two guys in Dynasty. I think Puka is the better player. I think he will be better for fantasy as well. But long term, when one of them's tied to C.J. Stroud and one of them's tied to a player that could retire any minute. So,
yeah, look, 73% good games for Puka, 64% for Nico. Both had 18% bust rates. Both had 18% great games. Both were outstanding. I mean, Nico was first 5 weeks the best wide receiver there was in fantasy.
And Puka, during the 10 games he played after getting injured in week 1, coming back, he was 16.1 fantasy points per game. So that would have been the wide receiver 2 ahead of Justin Jefferson.
And right now in best ball, it is going the Puka direction. It's wide receiver 3 for Puka, wide receiver 5 for Nico Collins. I don't think that there is as much confidence with the way the offensive system ran in Houston and now having to make a change as there is with Sean McVay and the consistency of getting Puka the ball every possible way in Los Angeles.
In a redraft league, I don't have any hesitation to take Puka over Nico. It's just in a dynasty league that's a question mark. Nico was unbelievably great in the beginning of the year. However, he had a handful of disappearing games down the stretch once he came back from injury, and whether that was Stroud, whether that was Nico, whether it was just the losses of Diggs and Tank Dell forcing defensive coverage on Nico, whatever it was, it happened, and it happened more than we would have liked. Like you said, the second half consistency for Nico, he was the 27th most consistent wide receiver.
Here's a wonderful crossover for you, too. The Texans literally just hired Nick Caley from the Rams
ironic.
to be their offensive coordinator.
He's got that toilet de McVay.
He was
McVay.
the passing game coordinator and tight ends coach.
And you know what? I'm in.
Oh, I'm in.
I'm in
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's less Slowick, more not Slowick is also good.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill came in at 20. He was drafted as the wide receiver 1.
Oh, man.
I tried.
But he missed a bunch of games.
Nope.
Oh, he missed no games. He played the entire season
he did.
and did not get 1,000 yards.
Is he the biggest bust in fantasy?
Probably not the biggest
Not injury-based.
But he's
a bigger bust than ETN is.
I think he is the biggest disappointment because Tyreek Hill, Tyreek Hill in some leagues was the 101. I mean, a lot of times it was, are you afraid of Christian McCaffrey? No, well, then play it safe.
Right.
Play it safe. Get Tyreek Hill.
Oh, man, both sucked. 13% great, 31% good, 38% bust. Holy moly.
Yeah, the reason I wouldn't say he's the biggest bust in fantasy football last year is like that whole first half. Week 1 was great. He was the QB4. They lose Tua for a huge stretch of games.
You blamed it all on that.
You didn't think it would be that bad as it was, where he's like in the 50s.
He did nothing without Tua.
And then Tua comes back and you got something. Like it wasn't Tyreek Hill wasn't unplayable. Like Travis Etienne was, if you put him in the lineup, you were just you knew you were going to get punched in the face. With Tyreek, he's at least giving you games. He's just not giving you anything close to the wide receiver.
Is the wrist injury, do you buy it?
I do not buy it because he played 17 games. However, let's take a closer look at weeks 8 through 16. That's when Tua came back, and that was 100% of the time playing with Tua. During that stretch of games, he was averaging 12.1 fantasy points.
Yes, it's not.
He would have had
not terrible.
He would have had a season-long 1,020 yards, 9.4 touchdowns. It's not terrible. It's certainly not worthy of the first or second pick in a draft.
Almost half his yardage from last year.
Yeah, and so you don't look at this situation and think, well, it should get better. Now he's going into year 31.
Has he become the Cooper Kupp of the draft season? Remember where Cooper Kupp was, lower than people, the tantalizing value, getting older, but maybe you can get another Kupp season. You know how people treated Cooper Kupp?
I'm very curious where Tyreek Hill is drafted with what he's
early
done.
Best ball wide receiver 17.
Oh, wow. I think in redraft leagues he might go higher than that simply because of the name.
Yeah. What, home leagues, you mean?
I think it's going to be brutal for people to pass on Tyreek Hill to take Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Exactly.
Or Garrett Wilson or Terry McLaurin. Those will be. Exactly. Yeah, I absolutely think you'll take him over.
I think I will pass Tyreek.
Pass on Tyreek.
Yeah.
Well, there's a fragility with the quarterback. I mean, that you now know. You knew that was there, but you thought you had kind of gotten past it, and then last year you thought maybe he lost his quarterback for the whole year. I mean, they've had to have too many starts from too many guys not named Tua Tagovailoa.
Everyone needs a good backup quarterback, but they really need to.
They need Joe Flacco.
You need someone like that where you can feel confident that if Tua misses a couple games, we're not just buried in the bottom of the ocean.
Give me Jameis or give me death.
Well, Jameis, we like Jameis for fantasy. I don't know if people want Jameis to win football games.
That's all I care about. I want Jameis
DTR got starts over Jameis for no good reason.
I was to lose. It was a great reason for them. I feel
like the Mavs trade.
Jameis should be the NFL backup.
You made it through the whole show.
I did. I feel
how
great.
Are you doing?
I'm empty. I'm doing real well. Hollowed out inside. How you doing?
You got a trophy.
I do. It's pretty sweet.
I don't think it's big enough for you.
No.
That
would overflow.
That was what? How many episodes of this show have we done, Al? How many? What is it? Show 17. 1,718. First time we've pulled that off.
Yeah.
All right.
I still blame Mike for coming in late.
Oh man.
Of course, I would have. That would have been mid-show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Tight end truth episode, fantasy face-off, Super Bowl lineups. We have a Super Bowl coming up.
Sure do.
So Thursday's episode should be fun. And we'll react to the Super Bowl next Tuesday. We also have an extra episode every week. If you want to support the show, you can go to jointhefoot.com. As Jason said, the Ultimate Draft Kit, the pre-order starts on Super Bowl Sunday, which means you can get access to the Dynasty Pass immediately. Our team has already been testing the app that's about to release. It's going to be awesome. So shout out to the Deucers for being ready to roll on time today. Amazing work. Talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.